Hello ladies and gentlemen, Dave Dobbs here. It's Wednesday the 25th of May 2022 and well, I've got you here opening on this rather incredible image of this big striped planet above the sun. Now I've shown you so many shots of this through the years, this same striped this same striped planet. You know, we've just seen so many shots of it. Probably the this big blue planet. Do you remember going backwards? The shot that really put Jeff P on the map, which we've got to bring into this right now because we saw that on the 14th of October 2016, and this model isn't really correct. But what's actually happening is the process of building this model, and the process of building this model and trying to show what 1800 years of movement would have looked like since 262, when we had 3 days of darkness and earthquakes all across Asia, all across Europe, all across Africa. It was the downfall of the Roman Empire. You know, we say the Goths came in and sacked Rome, but in reality, the Goths came in. Well, the Europeans, the Germans, whatever you want to call them, came in and invaded Rome when they were on their knees. They'd been decimated by war, by the earthquakes came, then the famines came, then the plagues came, and that's when everyone came in and took everything back. As they decimated for 1,000 years, so they were decimated. And let's just put that out of the way. And in my last video, I was talking about understanding the directions our sun is going, and as I started going through the video, I started realizing, I'm still in a massive debate of which way our sun is going, namely because if we can picture that something moving forward, like what I'm calling Planet X here, going forward, and objects orbiting round this object, we could see them, like I say, going forward at this point, and then here going this way, and then here going this way, and then here going this way. Their angle of intention always changing, but that is simply not the case, which is why I've put these followed the kind of orbital kind of like path of these of our sun, what I'm calling Pluto here, which we were calling, Galileo was seeing it with a 30 times telescope in 1610. 15, like I always talk about, 1596 was the first dwarf planet, first variable star ever discovered, SETI B Mirror, and then we get the biggest shots of it, just like we're seeing now, just the same things that we're seeing now. And the angle of intentions of not just at our sun, but where it's really going within the Milky Way story and within the galaxy, which way it's moving is, in the greater universe is you would have thought most people would have known that, but you would have thought we as a species with all our intelligence would have known that. But I can guarantee that if you try to get a straight answer from any of the astronomical scientific community, it's a very, very confused subject. We don't know where we're going. And when you're getting not just that sighting of this object coming in, we're coming up to, this was obviously, after Galileo's time, as I often talk about, 84 years after kind of like after SETI B was discovered. We have Isaac Newton, 1681, seeing, a big comet coming in, and then another one coming in. And then we come to William Herschel in, I keep saying 1774, and it's actually 1781. And then we come to 1846, Neptune. And we know that between 1846 and 1930, the discovery of Pluto is 84 years. And like I say, we come back to Uranus, which has got, ironically, and as I often talk about, an 84-year orbit. And would we be surprised if we discovered that Neptune had 2 times 84, almost? I mean, it's 165, and then we come to Pluto, and it's got 3 times 84-year orbit. And when we discover, and the reason I'm going through this is to try and give you another window on looking at this, because I'm about to offload something completely revolutionary to the Planet X debate for you all here. I've discovered something. I've discovered something remarkable, and whether it's going to blow you away or not, it's blown me away. It's kind of like it's really. I'm going to show you take this model to the next step, so I can, you see, because whenever you build a model, you want to set the primary, as in for our little localized story of our sun. Our sun is Earth's primary, and if you're going to map out how things are going to come into our sun and go out, you need to know which direction it's going. And this is a fundamental thing, and you wouldn't really necessarily think about that on an astronomical level or an astrological level. Necessarily, with all the other things you might consider in the orbital relationships of planets. But when you're building models, to understand how things are going to influence you is, if our primary, our sun is going to cause a perturbation, a movement of another planet's orbit against its normal route, or if another object is going to completely come round our primary, our sun, you'd have to understand which direction your sun is moving to understand any of that. It's like, I kind of relate it to a caravan. You're a family going on holiday, and you want to hitch the caravan, the caravan to the back of the car, or to the car. And one person's saying you've got to put it onto the side of the car. One person's saying you've got to put it onto the front of the car. One person saying you've got to put it to the other side of the car. One person saying you've got to put it to the corner. One person saying you've got to put it to the other corner. And one person saying you've got to put it onto the tow bar thingy, right in the middle at the back. And if we're going to understand, say, for example, that shot, incoming planet, that was posted, just yesterday, the day before yesterday, by Nick Thomas. If you want to understand that shot, that's just come in. That's posted, Same Logic Corp by me. So that's Brandon Corey Nagley. He posted that yesterday. I mean, that is the big object that we've been chartering. That's the big object that caused the red dust cloud. and people gathering up the dust and finding it wasn't red, it was grey, silvery grey. It's iron, but it reacts with the oxygen when it comes into the atmosphere, when it comes through the ionosphere, and it just does what our blood does. It goes red. You see, we've got to come back to, let me just open that out a little bit so it's a little bit clearer. Earth's perihelion point. You see, I was beginning to suggest that, hang on, it can't be the, well, let's just see where Earth's official, well, I can't say, this is not Earth's perihelion point. I got this, I got this wrong. So where have I put Earth? Earth's perihelion point. I've got that right. Let me just see if I can make any sense of that. Okay, so let's start here with Earth perihelion point. And what happened was, this is incorrect. This is incorrect. But it caused me to have an incredible discovery. Earth perihelion point, in my opinion, this is my opinion. This is how I've got to this. And I'm sorry if it's kind of like I'm sorry if it's a bit of a convoluted thing, but I've got a funny feeling that as I go through this, this is going to blow you away. So Earth's perihelion point is actually not there on September the 21st, 22nd, but it's actually December the 21st, 22nd, over here, coming out this way. So that's when we are close, in my opinion, that's when we are closest to the sun. And that's when the ecliptic will be that way. Is that right? No, it won't. It will be that way. So the let's do the sorry, not the sun, of our Earth. Sorry, the ecliptic of the ecliptic. What am I talking about? The axis of our Earth will be facing forward, and so the bottom section of the sun, the bottom section of the Earth, will be facing the sun. The top section will be pointing away from the sun. We will be the northern hemisphere will be experiencing its shortest day of the year. The southern hemisphere will be experiencing the longest day of the year. Now that tells you, when I start thinking about that, how come all of these other objects that we're seeing orbiting are coming exactly around the back end? And why does our longest days and shortest days fall almost in that same kind of threshold as these objects that these objects that I'm showing you as they're orbiting, as these objects are coming off, whatever you want to call it, Pluto, whether you want to call it Uranus, whether you want to call it Neptune, whether you want to call it the Blue Kachina, whether you want to call it Eris, they're coming, they're trailing back, and they're coming round our sun. Some of them are coming round, or some of them are experiencing a perturbation where they're coming quite close to our sun, but they're not going clean round it. and some obviously are coming so close they're literally being drawn in and coming round. And so this is our perihelion point. The sun is going this way, even though it's orbiting in this orbital relationship with planet X, and it's coming round this way. It's pointing forward, going forward. Planet X is going, Pluto, whatever you want to call it, is going forward. Planet X, that they're both orbiting, are going forward. They're in this, but they're in an orbital relationship. Their angle of intention doesn't change that much. But when we see that our sun, when we see that our Earth is on a constant tilt, then we can see that that tilt is falling true, is actually true perpendicular to the overall ecliptic plane of the system, the big system, the Planet X system that we're really on. Which means that we are on a inclined orbital ecliptic. It's us that are coming. Would we be coming? Yeah, so we're coming under and crossing through the central ecliptic plane of the system that we're passing, which is why all of these long duration volcanoes, because instead of these objects coming what was effectively down to the sun and then around, and now coming out to the sun and around, they're all sharing the same ecliptic. We're still on the same inclination journey, going up, cutting up through. But the reason we cut up through is that our relationship with Pluto, with Neptune, whatever you want to call it, as we come round and we get this really once every 1800 years close flyby, we're the smaller player. We're hydrogen going into helium, our sun. It's very low in density compared to this object, which, these objects that are coming around aren't made of iron. Well, they might be made of iron. I don't know what they're made of. They trail iron that spews from their primary, from Pluto, whatever you want to call this big object. That is not the big blue object. And so what we can actually see has actually happened is that, well, it's this model. It's very similar to this model, except that in 1939, the 20th of January 1939, Carlos Rada's big prediction on the, saying that a massive earthquake would occur exactly in Chile. He was right on the nail. He said it would occur on the 24th. It occurred on the 20th on the full moon. So we know that the moon amplified its proximity, its effects. And it came in on the 20th of January. So it came in, but it was what I call a perturbation, or we were so close to it, but it didn't go right round the sun. And we can see there are 4 fundamental points where things come in and go out. And, they can either come in or they can go out at these fundamental 4 points. But this specific one here, where it comes in, if it's coming in January, in kind of November, December, January, then it's going to go out in kind of like September sort of mark. And if it comes in September mark, it's going to go out in December, January mark. The same goes. But if it loops right round the sun as the same object in 1939 that caused the massive earthquake, the perigee point, not the perihelion point, the closest point that this object in this journey of coming also into its perihelion point reached its closest point to Earth on the 20th of January 1939. exactly as Carlos Ferrada predicted. But now we're so close that it's done a complete loop and come right round, and also extended its orbit. It hasn't increased its speed, but it's increased its, well, I mean, no doubt it would have followed. Still, you know, these ideas of when something comes into an object, it speeds up, and then as it comes out, it kind of slows down, and then it speeds up. We can see a kind of, it would appear to be this kind of losing of speed and gaining of speed. But what Kepler's law identified, that if I draw a line from here to here and here to here, so to speak, cutting through the central primary of whatever the object is orbiting, you will find out that the same area here and carved out here, you know, the area is the same basically. If you draw a straight line between the two, or two straight lines, you know, crossing at the point of the primary, whereas the objects move around, they take out the same amount of area, meaning that there are changes in the orbital relationship, but there's no loss of energy. Everything is still equal. There's no, you know, it's minus 274 degrees Celsius, I think, something like that in space, absolutely zero. And so we reach the first or the third rule of thermodynamics. You know, the first, you can't create or destroy energy. Second is you can store it, but you can only store it for so long, and basic entropy is going to release that process. And the third thing is that you can slow down the second rule by bringing it to absolute zero. And so you have no loss, even though it's seeming like that. And so we can see that we have a complicated arrangement of Kepler's laws, because we have, this is still its primary, and this is much denser, much heavier. So objects coming round aren't going to get stuck in the sun's orbit, because because the density of this object is too great for this object to actually escape, even though it can be pulled off and come to a complete loop round. So that's what we're seeing here. Now, I'm not the first person who said this in terms of what we're understanding about this big blue object. You know, I want to say Christine, I think it's Christine Lamont, could be Christina, but I'm going to say Christine Lamont, BP Earthwatch, Steve Rady, not forget you, my friend. Big shout out to JDoc74 as well. I still haven't sent him this book, and I've just been in little bits, and I've been in basically a brick wall with all of this, I'm afraid, for quite some time, not being able to move forward with anything. And so, but it is all coming, and I am, you know, until I get to this point where I can ascertain a forward motion, where I can position the Milky Way in this next model and take it further. But I think, well, let's keep going with this. Let's keep going with this. But it's all coming. It's coming. It really is coming. And thank you again for your support. It is, you know, I'm being a bit slow at the moment with everything, but it is. I'm giving myself a hard time as well about too many things, and I've been struggling so much, and I've been struggling with communication with too many people. I've just been a bit of a hermit just lately. It's just too much seeing this coming, being in this massive flyby that obviously started on the 16th of January, February, March this year with the Fukushima earthquake, exactly as I said it was going to go. And obviously we've had like 51 volcanoes going, crazy storms the whole way through, and everything else like that, but it hasn't been nearly as bad as I thought it would. But I didn't make videos to really shout out anything like I thought it was going to be this bad, and certainly I thought the same thing in kind of late last year. It was going to be a lot worse, you know, after I mean, we had La Palma and everything else like that. It was quite intense, you know, let's face it, it was pretty big. We had the worst storms in China for 1,000 years, you know, we are getting the most incredible flooding. And then the year before, we had the worst floods in China since the discovery of Pluto. And the year before, we have the worst floods in China since 1998. And when we're getting Comet Halley-Bopp, and isn't it ironic that now they're saying that we're going to come through the debris of that? Because remember, we haven't just got this object coming, this big blue object, you know, that's going to do its nemesis, whatever you want to call this object. We've got let me just come to that model. Actually, you know, this is just 2005 to 2004 to, you know, this object actually is the object that caused the 2004 December the 26th, Boxing Day 2004 earthquake and tsunami. So let's start it there. You can just see here, I call it Hydra here, but it's the big blue object, and and then it caused the 2008. So where's Hydra? 2007. Here. It caused in January, February, March, April. January, February, March, April, May. It must have been May the 12th. Could have been June, but it must have been May the 12th. Where, you know, massive, all these buildings, all these massive skyscrapers fell over in Sichuan. You know, and so this was what enabled me to, you know, this was the real precursor to the financial crash, because when everyone knows that there's about to be a massive event, everyone pulls their money out of fiat-based money because there's no value in it, and puts it into kind of like assets and all the things they think are going to be worth anything that can handle this type of chaos. And so, you know, they knew this was coming in without a doubt. And when I realised that, you know, I also realised that as I'm showing here, the earthquake that happened in New Zealand and Japan on the 22nd of November 2016, which I predicted was caused by this same, let's come to 2016. There's so many other flybys in that time, but obviously because you've got Fukushima and everything else like that, and you know, the twins, that we call them the twins, we have these flying by, and they're what's causing, I don't know if you can see the twins there, it's very difficult to see because you've got so much activity, but you've got Kerberos and Charon here. So they're causing these pair, and this is the pair that's coming in. This is the pair that they're saying is the, what are they calling it now? This is the pair that I've been chartering in with you. You know, this is what are we? We're going to come back to this hero shot. This is the 73p. This is the one that's kind of like, this is the pair. You know, it's historic meteor shower outburst from shattered comet may spawn new new Tau Hercules display, May 30th to the 31st. So who put this up? This was the Oppenheimer Ranch project, who's a big what do you call it? Grand solar minimum. You know, that's his speciality. You know, and so, you know, he's watching all these earthquakes and volcanoes, and he's seeing this as a very potential pole shift. And what I'm telling you really is that this isn't going to shift our pole. I mean, we're going through the ecliptic plane of the system we really orbit. So I don't really know what's going to happen, but we've done this time and time again. There is signs that our pole does shift. For me, it's going to be a marginal shift, And what's going to happen is, as we come under it, we're the smaller player. We're going to be the most influenced. We're going to have the biggest perturbation of our orbit. Our whole orbit is a perturbation created because our whole inclination is created because of this iron spewing planet that we are going past now. And it's going to pull us up. It's this that gives us our inclination. It's this that makes our axis like that. Or like that, should I say, which is really like that. We're on the inclination. And so it's still so this object is about to this object is about to fly by. So if we come back to this, which model have I got you on here? If we move that out of the way, maybe that would make it a little bit easier. Actually, I'll put it over there because I'll probably put a screenshot over the top. But if I just bring that over there, you can see. Let's come to, so that was 2010 and 2011. We get Fukushima. You know, a nuclear reactor goes bang. You know, we go back 12 years and we come back to kind of like, you know, the time of kind of like Comet Hale-Bopp. You go back another 12 years, you come back to the great storms of 87 or 86, you know, all the kind of when Kilauea and Krakatoa was all going off, when Chernobyl went bang on the day of a massive earthquake on the 26th of April 1986. Remember, January, February, November, January, February is things are coming in here and going out here, but things that are January are coming out here, like you're seeing this orbital train here, or things are coming right round. And if they're coming right round, they're coming from the kind of like February, March, April period and going out in the kind of like July, August period. So you can see us here. Can you see the pair here? Right next to Earth. They're almost running now they're running almost parallel to Earth. So now we're getting these long duration earthquakes and volcanoes. But you can see Hydra coming up here, where you can see now, if we come forward to Hydra's right back here now. But these are all timed in accordance to how we see them and tracked. You know, we've been tracking them since 2011. Every 200 days we get another sighting until obviously May the 4th, 2018, when Kilauea started absolutely pumping out magma non-stop, like we just haven't seen since 1939, since the Second World War began. Literally, as the Second World War began, as the big flyby came in, we do exactly what we're doing now. We try and take the world into absolute war, try and lower the vibration. For their big intention. And so let's that was the pair. That's when we saw a pair. It's not a very good shot of it, and it's really small anyway on the image. But that was the first shot of the pair. That's the big object. That's Hydra. And you know, that's what you're seeing. You know, this is that same object that Mr. MBB 333 shot there, but it's just coming straight towards us there. And it's just reflecting the light off it. But you're seeing it in the night sky. That's one of the twin tails. That's I thought it was Hydra, but it's one of the where is it? It was this one here, Europa. What I call Europa, and I named that after Galileo's, when he saw it with a 30 times telescope, like a bad iPhone, first series iPhone. You know, trying to see something where you're taking massive telescopes up onto the hills, huge things that you have to put in trucks to try and get a glimpse of a nice big view of Jupiter, and still you'd struggle to see its moons. And yet somehow he managed to see, when everyone else is seeing it bright and blue, just like we saw it bright and fantastic and blue in 2018. Everyone's saying, why is Jupiter so massive blue? Oh, well, that's the Doppler effect, when things are coming towards you. And it's just like, when did we discover or come up with the Doppler effect? Oh yeah, 1846 was when we discovered Neptune. So it was like 1842, 1848. It was a couple of years either side of that. Just when we were also seeing the big blue thing. Every 84 years we see a big blue thing and come up with this big cock and bull story. And of course the electric universe theory, like, oh well, it's got completely charged, unusually charged because of the whole kind of like, and they throw their little story at it. And we make every 84 years we throw these stories at it. We just cannot refuse to see this pattern. And so everyone's saying, look up into the night sky and see this thing going by. It's just like, guys, it's right there. It's come from the night sky. It is here. We have been charting it non-stop. And we've just seen it go by. You've seen epic shots of it. It is just utterly massive. And this is the asteroid alley bit. This is where we are... It's come to, well, we need to use this one because that one only goes up to 2021. This one goes up to 2023. So we can go up to where we are. 2022. So I've extended this out, and what I didn't, this model needs so much work now because I need to reposition the, I can now put the, it appears we're moving away from the Milky Way, really, even though obviously the Milky Way bands right around us, sort of thing. So it's a massive, massive thing. So I'd say we're moving right around it, but it's not like an orbital circle. Like we imagine, say, the asteroid belt. Picture, because things are moving around the Milky Way, what happens is, as something comes into the Milky Way, this thing, because it's going around and around, as something comes in towards it, it's always going to move out of the way. And so it's going to come round and it's going to get trapped in the biggest object's orbit as it comes around, and it's going to join, but everything's going to join either binary or more complex relationships within that. Obviously you can get paths crossing and different things like that, but obviously everything's going to more or less fall into this anti-clockwise cycle seen from above. That's why all the objects seem to go round, because every time they're heading towards something, that thing is also in an orbital relation going round, so it's always moving out of the way. Everything's moving in this cyclic fashion. So rather than having this big ring like you'd imagine the Kuiper belt or the asteroid belt, it becomes these kind of like looking like a curved propeller. Or it would come out, it would be a curved propeller like that. And it's just like a anti-clockwise, two kind of spirals coming out. I'm not doing that very well, but you know how you can picture how the Milky Way kind of looks like a propeller, but they kind of curve round. And anything coming into that, they're all, different things can come in, but they're all going to be joining this kind of pattern of entering into these orbital relationships. But the big objects, like I say, they are moving forward. They're orbiting the whole planet, the center, the galactic hub of our Milky Way, which is no doubt a massive black hole. And the black hole exists because of critical mass occurring at its center, a black hole being created at the center. And you know, when matter was, you know, the density of some of the materials, it must be beyond our comprehension. You know, if we can, you know, we constantly run this story that our sun's the heaviest thing and it's made of the lightest elements. It's just like absolute barbaric mentality. Everything that we're living on, just the angle, the inclination of our sun, of our Earth going around our sun, tells us everything we need to know about our place in this system. We are crossing the ecliptic plane of the Planet X system. And all I can tell you is this is you know, you got to throw down your weapons. War won't get you through this time. This is when the cleaners come to Earth. This is when those that really manage this system come in and sort this planet out and set it back on course. And that's the message. I finally understand the message that I was given now. You know, I always wanted to know what the war was. You know, I wrote my whole book, Laughing Gas, which was all about us leaving Europe. And if we left Europe, our fate would be sealed. You know, and I published it in 2011. I serialised it in 2011 and published it as a book in 2012 on the summer solstice. And, you know, I was just told you approach the wall, you know, open with an ayahuasca ceremony. It ended with me going off to do a whole writing practice and learning how to unlock what I was doing with ayahuasca through my process of writing and connecting to the divine through a practice with intention of finding a solution and understanding a way to save my planet from what I saw had happen if we left Europe. And what I saw was that I saw us leaving Europe, I saw a massive famine, I saw the bank going down, and I saw a call for war. And that call for war, was what brought about my end, which was what seemed to be a tsunami that had killed me. And I went off to South America to drink ayahuasca and see if I could understand this shame and this sadness that I experienced after my death. And it was I'm just going to let the little doggy have a little wander. I was told that we approach the wall, that nothing gets through the wall that is of war. Throw your depleted uranium, all your nuclear bombs, scratch the surface of this. Seen so much bigger. You know, you're up against it here, and it told me that it wanted me to invite them in, and that meant so many different things to me at different stages. You know, I still wanted to understand when I was going off to South America, when I was going off to India to write Laughing Gas, and to try and do this process, and this took 4 years to write it, and to go through this process that I had to go through. Took, you know, waking up at 5 o'clock every morning. I did that for 4 years non-stop, and just did a 6-hour writing practice every day. Never missed a day. And if I did miss a day, I'd make it up, but I very rarely missed a day. I got so locked into it, it became so addictive, and it became so powerful. And the communication was just utterly just beyond belief. It was above the threshold of belief. I had to work within that space. You know, I had to go beyond. You know, its point is to open up the doors to receive information. If you're going to feed it to your lowest, most doubting parts, to rip it all apart and destroy it, you're not able to hold anything together. So we have to learn to deal with information differently. And sometimes that means staying away from certain people and certain things, because we have to hold that together. And other people's doubt is very destabilizing. If someone doesn't believe in you, they destabilize you. and their doubt and disbelief in you is ultimately an attack on, not willingly necessarily, but it's an attack on the stability of your ability to achieve your resolve of keeping your line of inquiry and focus. You know, someone saying, "Oh, you're full of shit. Oh, you're mad. Oh, you're da 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 da. Oh, everyone thinks you're mad. Blah blah blah. Whatever it is, or your friends think you're mad," and all these little subtle comments to try and kind of make you destabilize you. You know, and we're all dealing with that, and it's really, really difficult, especially now for me, to watch this massive flyby, the biggest flyby since the Second World War, the one that was the precursor for the Second World War, to literally be coming in all massive. You know, you can't get bigger than this. You can't get a bigger flyby than this on this planet. This is as big as it gets. You know, people are going to be looking at this what is it? This comet now, thinking it's out there in the stars and this massive tower and it's this distance away. This is just like, guys, this is. But like I say, what is interesting about here is coming to this time, you can see that as this comes through, it's come past us. Now, it's very difficult to say what happens here. Can you see how we're running parallel? And as it comes out, you're going to see Hydra is coming round, and Hydra is going to cross our path also. Now, what should happen is that we should pass first of all like that, but it's going to be a, you know, I thought this was going to be, like I say, I thought this was going to be as shown in this model, coming up to what was it? It was Nick. Oh, that's too early. Sorry. It was Nick Thomas's shop on the 9th of July. 2020, where you literally see it coming in front of the sun, and you know, we charted it all the way through. Steve Rady gave me well, he gave me a I mean, do you remember Steve Rady's shot? Very similar to, I got it in one of the sorry, let me, I've got it in many of my shots. I mean, you're just seeing endless. We've just seen so many shots of it, but was that a Steve Rady shot? I think that was a Steve Rady shot. I mean, we've just seen so many of them. It's just, I mean, just buried inside there, because I've tried to be, you know, my biggest focus has obviously been the twin tails, and seeing its incredible form, and you know, like I say, we saw that, we saw these two coming in at the beginning of the cycle, as I, you know, there they go with earthquakes right on. So you know, that was like 2 months ago, and obviously we knew the player were coming in, and obviously you're going to get the shots of it. You just, you know, what do I do now? What do I do in this? You know, we've seen it coming in from the night sky. You know, that was Area 55 shot 2 months back. you know, and we've just been, because it's just for us, it appears to be just sitting there, because it is traveling. Its circumference is bigger, but it takes 1 month longer to do a full rotation, but its circumference is bigger, so it is traveling faster. But actually, once it comes up as it's coming round at that point, it's the difference in speed. You know, any objects coming in now between us and that, you know, it's, you know, the difference in speed between these two things. I mean, imagine something coming in from a long way away and falling in towards our sun, getting faster and faster, and then cutting across our path perpendicular. You know, that is a fast-moving object. That represents a very fast-moving object. And if it came via our sun, if our Earth was, you know, in that picture, it would be pointing towards our sun, and then our sun, it would be pointing to coming towards our Earth. If it was being drawn in towards any objects in close proximity to our Earth, we'd obviously start heading towards the Earth. But of course, as per the normal rules, Earth is going to move out of the way. And, you know, what's created the really interesting set of dynamics we're seeing with all of these objects that are coming in and going around our sun is that because they have been coming, because they've been coming up from, because they've been coming down from the Pluto system, or the Neptune system, or the Uranus system, the Blue Kachina system. I mean, you know, everyone's subtly trying to tell you this in all their different ways, because they all have to live with themselves, and they realise that the agendas that they're all serving by giving all their power away to these space agencies and these everything else that run these run this whole bullshit system to conceal this whole thing. And when you start realising that what you're really serving is, you know, this, you know, as my message to when I did my channeling and that sort of stuff, and I brought my messages through, you know, I said, when do you step in? And the answer I got was, at the moment I have both feet in, but if you don't want me, I will take both feet out. You know, you do not have to have me in you, as it's a choice. You know, you all choose to channel that which you feel that you truly are. And we've all got a choice now of which one we want to be. We all know we have a really, really a beautiful side, and we all know we have a bit of a bit of a monster sometimes as well. And our monster is triggered by different things, different traumas that allow it in. But we are stuck between these two, and that's what's going to end here. We become one or the other. That's what I was given the whole book, Laughing Gas. Your Earth will no longer support duality. That's the big shift that's really happening. I wanted to really understand it. And so a lot of souls are going to leave, and what's going to happen is when we are closest to this, when Hydra and Earth reach true perigee, their closest point, which I'm of a mind is going to be August, and July is going to be potentially the closest crossing point. I mean, at the moment, yeah, we're close to this. We are close to the objects in this town. It is true, and it's overtaking us now. But in reality, if this object is coming out here, you see, this is the confusing bit, and I, you know, just to really try and bring you down. See, I've got these objects coming across here and passing here, but and remember, if we look at 1939, 20th of January 1939, and we add 84 years exactly to that, we come to the 20th of January 2023. But remember, because we've seen so much evidence that this has passed us, and come round because of all the sightings and all the seismology because of the killer wave volcano going off on May the 4th, 2018, and then the next big, the flooding then starts in June the next year, and then July the next year, and it starts getting later and later each month. But every 1 month later every year, and every year exponentially bigger than the previous year. So we can see if last year was the worst storms since for 1,000 years, guys, and that was exponential to the kind of like to the previous years. What have we got going on this year? We can see the sightings, we can see everything, we can see the whole world is being placed onto a complete war front, and you can see everything is being put in place for this. You can see what's going to happen to make their war happen, to plunge us into this low vibration. The only thing they need to do is what has been the precursor for most wars, is create a famine. A hungry man is an angry man. We've given too much power away, and I desperately tried to I spent most of my time after, I didn't know how to proceed after I'd got all my messages. And so I just went on this whole thing of trying to make people realise that we mustn't leave Europe. And if we leave Europe, our fate is sealed. And it fell on deaf ears. Everyone just thought I had an agenda. I guess I did have an agenda. I wanted to stop the end of the world. Well, no, maybe not the end of the world, but I still wanted to stop the end of Britain. The end of my world. And we're the shoes on the other foot now. We are we're trying to start a massive war, and we've given too much power to a lot of characters, and a miracle could happen here, and I really pray it does, and I really see that, I really understand on a much bigger level what's kind of happening here, and that it's not really the Earth has been invaded as much as our astral realms have been invaded, but our astral realms will not survive this. They will be frazzled by this, and there'll be a blank screen. They'll be blank, and we will have to start over. This is when the psychic realms or the astral realms of Earth get cleaned out. This is a psychic enema for Earth, and it happens periodically around about every 1800 years. And so there's much fear in the astral realms, because those realms that have been invaded, they're like a heaven realm. Our souls, our highest aspects, would consider a heaven realm, where there's a non-karmic realm where they don't want to be here, and they're being forced into this space because of this whole process. And everything we're going through is the arrival of the ego soul group, the invasive soul group, to this whole story that we can't see because we can't go beyond belief, and belief is the mechanism used to invade the human state. We hide behind an invisible wall of belief, and this invisible wall of belief is not sufficient to protect you from the woes of this system. We can hide behind it and pretend that we can't be touched, and we just don't believe. And we'll back the carbon zero story, knowing that we're building nuclear power stations on fault lines and tsunami hotspots in the name of stopping the carbon dioxide spewing out of volcanoes. Remember that Etna, when it goes bang, it's like 80 million tons of carbon dioxide. It's 80 million tons of rock that's not coming back down when it's spewed out of that volcano. It's going to turn into carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide. It's going to burn up in the air. It's going to go up into the air fully, unbelievably high temperatures, and meet oxygen. It's under high pressure. It's going to explode. It's going to combust. And that's what happens. It produces massive amounts of carbon dioxide. And we've had 51, 52 volcanoes going. This is happening. So get ready, prepare. You can see the scale of what's coming in. There's going to be, you could argue that the big flyby is going to be next year in January. But I think we've proved that you know, you can remember that when we got to my big flyby in what was it? It was January. It was 2017, the one that really put me on the map. Came backwards there, but that was the last shot of Dill Martin. January the 13th, 2017. That's the big blue one. Even though it seems red there, that's because it's sitting behind a cloud of red dust from what is Europa. Can you see Europa there? Have I got Europa in that one? Sorry, guys. When you see it, it's not coming to view, and yeah, so there's Europa here. It's coming on this orbital track, coming in here, and this is coming in on the kind of like September, for a September transit round here, and then coming out again in December, January here. And so it had just gone by, and we're seeing it. In actual fact, it was just sitting around about here then. So we were seeing it coming towards the sun and coming out at the January point. In reality, it was just a very steep inclination. So it wasn't on the ecliptic plane, but you could see it spectacularly. And you know, I mean, it really put me on the map. But obviously, you know, people are saying it's a cloud, and it's just like, well, clearly it's not a cloud. You know, it came with an 8.0 earthquake in Papua New Guinea. But anyway, so there's a big change to this model, and it means that that everything's the same as that, except that Pluto is sitting on the ecliptic and we're sitting below it. And we're crossing up through. So it's very similar to that. It's just that last little change, and understanding that our sun is heading in the December direction. December the 21st is the angle of intention of our sun and our Earth. That's the that's our perihelion point, December the 21st, and we can see that, and it's obvious because of the inclination of our Earth. That was a bit of a complicated one. Anyway, I've done it. All the love in the world. I haven't got a lot more to say really, other than prepare now, guys. That's all you can do, is prepare. Prepare spiritually. Know that you're going to be tested. Remember the dream that I had when my mum died, and just before she died, I had a dream, and this little girl said to me, she goes, "I don't like you." And I was like, oh, and so I pulled out some money out of my pocket. I don't know why, but I pulled out some money out of my pocket, and I just handed her this money as if to say, "There you go. It's an act of kindness. I can give you some money, not to try and buy her, but you know, just to try and be generous." And then she just had this briefcase, and she put this briefcase next to me, and it was full of gold. So I tried to put the briefcase in my rucksack. I was like, "Oh, thank you very much," whatever. And I tried to put the briefcase in my rucksack, but I couldn't get it in. So I just carried it. And then I went up the hill to watch the band, because I was in some kind of festival. And I went to the top of the hill to watch the band. And it was amazing. I felt good, had the gold, had my rucksack on my back. And suddenly everything goes bang, and all the security, the police, army, everything comes running out. Everyone's scared, and I run down the hill, and I haven't got my gold. And I think, oh my God, I need to get the gold. And I turn running back up the hill to try and get the gold. And I remember, oh my goodness, don't wake up. Don't wake up before you get the gold. And I woke up, and I knew what my mum was telling me was stay on the mountain. Stay in a high place within yourself. Don't get pulled into this crazy story. Just be the best human you can be through this. At the end of it, whoever becomes their ego in this will abide by the same rules. They enter into the Earth contract rules. You know, it's not an invasion. It's actually a Passover. And the soul that was residing in that human being, if they pass over their body to their ego, if they choose to do that, or if they've chosen to do that, they'll have no memory of who they were, because who they were won't be here anymore. Sometimes who you think you are isn't really who you actually are. And many of us are being dragged along with these narratives. And now it's one or the other. And they want to take you into a narrative where you become that narrative. And it resides within you. It resides in your heart center. And your existing soul, if you choose, goes to this higher place. If you choose to go there, it requires a peaceful declaration to enter. You agree that you are of peace. That is a requisite. It's not taken or accepted as that. You state that. It's a contractual agreement that you agree to enter that realm, because it's all of your best, and it's all everyone else's best. All their best that you have created here on this planet is projected into a higher place. Call it the fifth. It's not the fourth dimension. It's not the astral realms connected to Earth. It's all your finest, all of our finest. And so there's a consensual agreement, because everyone has created that. And so that is the space that's opening up to a lot of souls that have had their address here on the third and fourth dimensions, on Earth, in the Earth realm, exclusively in the Earth realm. You know, you're all gods of the Earth astral realms. You are the creator of those. Those are the realms that are invaded. And that invasion is coming here. It's got to come here, where it will be accountable for its actions directly. Again. And it's been a long time. It's been a very long time since they were embodied. They hate the third dimension. They see it as hell. They see it as evil because of the karmic relationships, number one, and because, number two, you have no memory. When you arrive here, all that you thought you were and all your grand intentions, and only the essence of what you are remains. And you have to do a massive journey to find who you are and reinvent yourself and redefine that. And so Earth offers an opportunity to project into other realms. It is the way in which we create other realms, through this opportunity. It's the most powerful place to be, the third dimension, but it is the hardest place to be. but it is the most powerful. You can manifest so much here beyond your wildest dreams. So spread love, spread gratitude. You've created so much. Don't blow it all now. Don't make stupid mistakes now. Bring in divine protection. Keep asking God for assistance. Connecting. Please help me through this time. I'm really struggling with this at the moment, and I really want to be in peace at this time. Please help me find peace within myself now. Please help me now. And others that you want to help. Connect with others. Try and help your community prepare for this, if they want to see it. Most are in another story. Lots of new stories coming out. The old monkey. Oh dear me, next one. 3 week, you know what. You know, they're preparing for this. You know, it's so we've got to prepare for this and just do the best we can. It's just an adventure. It's just an adventure. That's what we've also got to remember. You know, everyone lives, everyone dies. There's no getting away from that. So many of you have created so much in this life. You've had so much abundance in this life. You've seen so much. So many of you have had such amazing lives. Just to be here and witness this time, be part of this massive transition of being on our little sun, passing through the ecliptic plane of the system that we orbit, right next to our main player, our big blue object. And that is our second Earth. That is the fifth dimensional Earth. That is the best of all that we create here. Highly, highly protected by its flanking objects. And that's what these twin tail objects are. They are its protection. You know, this is, you do not wage war in the presence of this thing. You just don't do that. And anyone who does do that goes under the wheels of this. You know, this is everyone trying to make all our enemies go under the wheels of their gods. But I think too many people know about this now. I think it's too much out of the bag, and I don't think that they can do it. And that's why I just wanted to save that last image here. By a film that I suddenly remembered that I'd watched when my whole laughing gas thing had happened at Reading Rock. And on a blast of laughing gas, I'd seen this horrible vision and seen this whole, you know, the banks going down and then everyone being really excited and then the sudden famine of what that was and then the call for war and then the tsunami. And so we have two flybys coming in, one and then the other. You know, July and August, and I think that's very potentially why this proximity. And this film, I watched this film and the same time it happened. The night before. I'd watched it on the Saturday night before. Reading Rock is a bit like a school disco at night, you know, and everything shuts down at kind of like midnight or something, and everyone just gets kicked out of the arenas, and the teenagers get really, really angry, you know what I mean? And so they burn all the bins and they go a bit crazy. But there are a few places that they leave open, and they had a cinema night. And they played Hero. And I don't want to give too much of a spoiler alert, so I'm going to put that up, and because that's quite close to the end of the movie, and it's a little bit of a kind of like, it's quite a big spoiler alert. So sorry, but it's not that much of a spoiler alert. But nonetheless, it is this kind of understanding that, you know, the real kind of the kind of without, it is a bit of a spoiler alert. And if you haven't seen the movie, then I'd really recommend watching it and then play the last part of what I'm about to say here. Maybe, but you know, this chartering this assassin who's so talented that if he can get within a certain distance of the Emperor, there's nothing the Emperor can do to survive. He's finished. Let me just let the cat. I can say cat in, then let the dog in, and where was I going with that? And when he gets within to that distance, the Emperor is not really, he's not terrified. And it's almost confusing to the assassin why he's not terrified. And the Emperor explains to him the error of his calculation. And when he explains to him the error of his calculation, he's so overwhelmed because it's a bit like me when I was saying that the direction of the sun is, the direction of the sun is going June. Like I say, I'm not saying even then I'm not saying I know, you know what I mean? And really, I was really talking, more that I was talking about the kind of perihelion point of the object coming in from the Pluto system, coming close to our sun. But I'm still obviously still in massive debate as to ascertain which way the sun is actually going to build the next model. And suddenly we just get this whole thing, and I can see how me seeing the wrong direction of the sun's moving, or calculating it, or just even holding that in my mind, I'm holding a notion of having a sun going in the wrong direction. How does that affect my life when I have a picture of my system going backwards? So apologies for that. Do understand that even now, I'm postulating these ideas, but I'm trying to bring all of these sightings and everything together, and I'm always trying to tell you that I haven't got the definitive answer to this. This is a line of inquiry. And we're piecing this together bit by bit by bit, and there is always going to be changes and subtle changes, but we're just, with all the different sightings and all the different bits. But basically, this movie to me represented this understanding that the foe of our world, as in that which, the extreme right wing that runs the US dollars and runs this kind of fiat-based wage slavery, dollar, where it's all dollars and absolutely no sense, is going to see the light also, and it's going to change. And after this, those that arrive, they'll have no memory of who they were. If they weren't here before and they're new, they would have no memory of who they were before. That's part of the deal of arriving. There's no real rules on Earth. You pay your karmic dues. Do as you will is the whole of the law. And the karmic rules of the third dimension sort everything else out. You pay your karmic dues, and that's the rules you agree when you enter this realm, and that you have no memory. You can go on your journey to reconnect to your highest aspects and to your core and your deeper intentions. But when you arrive in this earth, you're an uncut stone. You're raw, and you have the opportunity to recreate yourself anew, and that's why you choose that. That's why we choose that in this, to come to this planet. And those who arrive will abide by those same rules. They'll have no memory of who they were or where they came from. And if they aren't the human beings, if they're not the souls that were holding the true joystick of the human state, the heart state, and something else has fallen into the heart state, then that will be their truly first time on this planet. They'll be given their opportunity to do things, and it'll be a fresh start. They will have finally arrived in a living body, and this has been thousands of years. This their agenda of moving from one planet to another has taken thousands and thousands of years. What they were promised, this they had it all, and they were led into war and hate and division, just as we are being led into war and hate and division. And they've taken the journey that we're on further than you can ever imagine. And hopefully we're not going to make their same mistake. Hopefully we're simply going to help correct their mistake and bring them back to the table of life, because that seems to be what's happening. But there's a big process, much bigger than what's really going on, and hopefully we might change our minds. The agendas that are really pushing this might change their minds when they really start seeing this thing. Well, you're already seeing it. It's just that obviously those that are tied to the whole carbon zero story, they are sworn to that now. You know, and the karma of that story and the damage it does to this earth in running such a massive lie has a karmic equation attached to it. It's like being dragged to the bottom of the lake by something that you cannot fight against because you cannot see it. It's just a belief. It's a Christian belief. We've simply taken Jesus off the cross and put the earth on the cross and said, earth is dying for your sins and you need to do something nasty about it. And so you need to believe this story, this horrible story, where you demonize carbon dioxide. You go off completely the wrong man. And hopefully that's all going to change now. Hopefully we're all going to start waking up, but you know, we come into big volcano time now. The biggest. This is magma, not shooting up super high altitude. This is fissures in the ground opening up and magma oozing out. And this is coming in the northern hemisphere at first, this big blue one, as it comes round. So this is going to be big earth changes. You know, most of you are just going to be saying, oh, it's going to be, what are we going to call it? Yeah, the Tau Hercules display on May 30th. NASA's latest little kind of like excuse for what we're about to experience. So sorry, another long video, but all the love in the world. That's pretty much it. Hopefully we're going to change our mind at the last minute and not try to take this whole world into war for this agenda, which will, if this agenda was to achieve, and this Large Hadron Collider which they've got going at the moment, which they've fired up at this time, which will also be, you know, the time they're going to detonate that, it's probably going to be around about August, July, August also. As in, do the highest power collisions they've ever created. Big stuff's going on, guys, I'm afraid. You know, this is all happening together for the same reason. It's all part of the same story. The Large Hadron Collider was it was a Large Hadron Collider that destroyed Mars, taking it into war just to fire up that thing, just to avoid arriving in the third dimension. The most powerful place to be, but the most scariest. Karma. Big golden rings of light through this process. It's going to be a big one, guys. You know it. You've got nothing to fear other than fear itself. Just big golden rings of light. Try and do all the things you set about to do for these times. Food, clean water. People are going to be going crazy. It's going to be going crazy. He already is going crazy. Take care. All love in the world. Ciao.